Robert Blackmon, current St. Pete City Council member, running for mayor. Certainly, I'm aware of the struggles that artists go through. I mean, it is a labor of love a lot of times, which is sad because so many people also love the work that the muralist creates, yet they don't get enough money or appreciation. A lot of times it's a one-off hit, and the income is just so, you have these big hits and then you have these big valleys. So we certainly need to emphasize, I mean, there's only so many buildings too that are ever going to be willing to have murals on them. We can try and expand that, but and we have expanded it well, but at the same time, we need to take more care of our artists. So absolutely, I am very empathetic and understanding, but also thankful for the arts community that's made the city what it is. And St. Pete has become a huge cultural arts destination. I want to try and strengthen that if elected mayor. Two things I want to touch on. I don't want to get too off topic. But first of all, we talk all the time about how poverty has been reduced over the last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years in St. Pete. Poverty has been reduced because we've forced out our most vulnerable residents. We've further gentrified the city and we've displaced people outside the city lines. So poverty has gone down because we've forced out the lowest income. And that is why that statistic is very misleading. It gets tossed around a lot, especially at City Hall, but it's wrong and it's disingenuous to use that. How can you incentivize artists and keep them in town? And the way is through money. And the way we can give money is you look at art not as just a public service, but as a business. Art is a business because we make revenue, we sell hotel beds, we sell sodas and dinners and everything else. Tourism is based on our vibrant, not even nationwide, but world-class arts destination. We need to make sure we tighten up a budget. And that, the thing I think is so counterintuitive is whenever people talk about budget cuts, which is not what I'm talking about, but allocation, people always go, oh man, the arts is going to suffer. Actually, the opposite. I want to put more money towards arts and parks because it is good for the city as a whole and the city's bottom line. It grows the entire economy. So supporting the arts is certainly good for business, and I would love to do it more. We're losing our arts community. Again, how do we solve that? I have a couple ideas. First of all, we talk about all the time, and I brought this up recently, and it's an issue I've been trying to push for affordable housing, and this is for the individual end, is what we typically focus on because building costs and land costs have gone up so much. We typically focus on 120% AMI, and that means area median income. So 120% of the area median income translates to about $62,000, $65,000. That is a good paying job, okay? $60,000 these days, a lot of people aren't making anywhere near that. And these are the people we're giving affordable housing to. It's great, and we do need to take care of everybody, but exactly that, we need to take care of everybody. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. They say a rising tide lifts all boats, but a lot of people are drowning in that rising tide, and the tide has been rising here, and people are getting completely swept under. What I'd like to see done, which would save the city money, the taxpayers' money, would actually have more of a meaningful change, would be to start buying up a bulk portfolio of individual condominiums all throughout the city that are vintage built, 60s, 70s. We do light refurbishing, $0 to $10,000. And then we give mortgages away, so not give the condos away, but give mortgages away to private individuals who are making 40 to 80% AMI. And a lot of times the arts community would fall into that. And how does this help us? It helps us in multiple ways. First of all, we're not giving away money. Nobody gets a handout. You're then paying a mortgage. And your mortgage would be, maybe $750 out the door tops, but your water would be included because that's in your condo fee. A lot of times basic cable, you wouldn't have to worry about lawn work. You wouldn't have to worry about exterior paint, and you'd be paying into a mortgage. The taxpayers get their money back, but also the renters are getting equity. We need to first of all start bringing a lot more artists into the fold with the greenhouse, which is, the incubator for the city. It's at the former original city hall next to the current city hall. But we need to start bringing in artists as a business, as we discussed earlier, because artists make money for the city. We need to be making sure that they're taken care of. The second thing is our city grant writing team, where the city applies for grants, is wildly successful. We have the best grant writers and we get money for everything. It's one of the things I've been most impressed about while I've been on council is how successful we've been able to be as a city at obtaining grants ourselves. we need to try and roll some of that in our grant writing team through the greenhouse into helping out our artists, because there's a lot of money out there and we need to be helping people get it. What I was getting at was not to say turn into a business person. It's just we need to confront the fact that art has become big business for cities, especially ours. It's been a big part of our success. So whether or not the artist are a business person, that comes back to, is music an art? It is. And that's how you talk about all the time about musicians getting ripped off, rappers getting ripped off in deals. We don't want our people getting ripped off. We want them to be succeeding and be a part of the future, part of the path of what is making us special, because we don't want to just have this be backbreaking labor with no return. We want the people who are making us great to be compensated fairly. So all I was saying is we need to bring it into the fold and acknowledge that it is a business. And a lot of times you have non-business people who are creating a lot of money for people. Again, that's the plight and that's the tragedy of arts over the centuries, is most of these people are creative. They're not looking at this as a business. And there's unscrupulous types, or even those who are just completely unwilling to acknowledge what the arts have done for us. And that's why we need to have resources, like I said, partnering with the greenhouse, showing people how to get from point A to point B when it comes to grants, but also giving creative space, giving grants out directly to entrepreneurs, because that's what artists are. They're entrepreneurs. And we need to start acknowledging that harsh reality that there is a business behind, and that's how so much money has been created by so many people in the city. And that's why I want to do stuff like direct grants to entrepreneurs, and especially those from the city and from our historic neighborhoods like Midtown, because what better person to make your city great and your neighborhood the best it can be than somebody who's from that neighborhood improving it, or painting a mural in their own neighborhood that represents the neighborhood. It's what we want. We can easily do it. We have the resources. It's just all about allocation. And that's why I'm looking at making these tweaks. And the thing is, there's never a better idea than cutting out middlemans and red tape. And that's why also stuff like, the privatization the mayor's been pushing of our municipal marina, eliminating that, just doing it ourselves. We need to keep public assets public, and we need to make sure that the public can enjoy what they've paid into, because artists have paid into the city too, let's not forget, not only through the tax base, but also the tax wealth they've created by bringing up property values. Because the majority of our city income comes from property tax, and property values have gone up thanks to our arts community. So wealth has been created directly by artists, and we need to acknowledge that. We've changed from STEM to STEAM now. And what does the A in STEAM stand for? It stands for art. I want to put arts groups in the Science Center as well to teach kids arts. This is youth, right? This is not talking about the current artists, what we've largely discussed, but having youth classes be taught so that kids can learn the value of arts from a young age. Now, we're not just talking about, macaroni art here. We're talking about you can do all sorts of multimedia, but also what I'd love is if we could get an organization that could also teach kids about the business of art. Because if you're looking at this from a young age and you're given the resources, you can be successful and you can succeed on your own. And that's why the Science Center Revitalization Project, I want to renovate this, have it be a world-class facility again, 30,000 square feet of STEAM learning. And arts will certainly be represented within this facility on the west side of town. And it's a great sprawling campus. I think we can do a lot of good. And this can be an incubator where, not for adults, it's going to be an incubator for children, but also adults can benefit if you're one of the organizations that is helping out our youth and has outward facing classes. Certainly we want you to be a part of this. So anybody who sees this, please reach out to me, because things are going great. We are going to have this project up and running again. It's probably going to take another year or so, but it's going to happen. And if I'm mayor, it's going to happen a heck of a lot quicker, and it's going to be a heck of a lot nicer. But even if I'm not mayor, from the council perspective, I've been able to push this enough and build enough consensus that this will happen. I have still a lot of figuring out to do with the grants that I want to give out to neighborhood entrepreneurs. So there would have to be strings attached. Certainly you'd have to be living in St. Pete. You have to be a St. Pete resident. And if you'd moved it, there's a lot to figure out, but I do support allocation of more direct money to artists. Yes, period. Because again, it's supporting the arts, but it's also supporting our business community, because artists are entrepreneurs. That's why we need to have real ownership of the businesses, of housing, so people have equity, so they can't just be swept out. And that's why, going back to what I was talking about before, when I want to give out some of these grants, I'm hoping that people will take some of this and start buying up buildings, buying up office space, buying up commercial space, buying up homes, because there's no true equity for justice like there is financial equity. Because ownership, you rise and you fall with what you've built. But if you're building something good, you'll keep rising. And we need to make sure those who are making our area special are the ones who ultimately benefit in the long run.